I'm going to show you a very quick demonstration of how to do simple threaded programming in Java working in the NetBeans IDE. So first of all, we need a new project, and it'll be a Java application, and we're going to call this threaded voting. And once we get our project up, we are automatically the threaded voting.java file opens, but we're not going to play with that quite yet. Right away, we are going to create a new Java class, and we're going to call it countVote. No, we'll call it VoteCounter. And VoteCounter exists right here. Here we go. We need a couple of private fields in here. So first of all, we need a private string to hold the candidate's name, so private string name. And we need a private int to hold the number of votes that the candidate has received. And we will get NetBeans to give us a constructor. Now we're going to pass in the name, but we'll just initialize the votes, so we don't need to click that box. So here we go, we pass in the name, and we will do this.numVotes equals 0. We'll initialize it to 0 when we come in. Now we want a vote counter object to be created for each candidate, and then we want to be able to run each candidate's votes counting at the same time in a separate thread. In order to do this, we need our VoteCounter class to implement Runnable. This will allow us to create an object of this class as a new thread. So once we say implements Runnable, notice we get this little red error message over here, and if you hover over it, it says VoteCounter is not abstract and does not override abstract method run in Runnable. Okay, so what we need to do, if we actually click on this, it says implement all abstract methods. So we can do that. And now we've got a run method down here, and it throws in this throw new unsupported operation exception. We don't need that. We can just delete that. And now we have a run method. And what we want to do in here is just create a loop. So while true, this is going to go on forever. We're going to let it continue forever until we sort of kill the program. While true, and we will increment numVotes, and then we're going to print something out. So we'll print out candidate, and we'll add in their actual name, has, and then we'll put in the number of votes, numVotes. Okay, so this will print out each time the vote increments, it will print it out. Okay, so this is all we need. This class is very simple, it does very little, but it will run, and because it's got a while loop in it, it will just continuously run in this infinite while loop, incrementing numVotes and printing something out. And we can run one of these, we can run 5 of them, and that's what we'll do from our main class. So switching back to our main class, in the main method, we can now say that we want to create some of these vote counter objects. So I'm going to do this in 2 steps and then show you how you would do it in 1. So if you thought, well, I need to create a vote counter object, you'd say vote counter 1 equals new vote counter. And we need to pass in a name, so we will pass in the name Celine. And then we can then put this vote counter into a thread and run it. So we can say thread new thread counter 1 equals new thread. And then we pass in vote counter 1. We can pass in a vote counter object to our new thread constructor because the VoteCounter class implements Runnable. and then we can simply say counter 1 dot start. And this will run our thread, and let's just see what this looks like. Okay, so it's just quickly incrementing, and I'm getting 20,000, 30,000 votes, and I can stop this at any time. So that's not really very exciting. This gets exciting when you create more than one and let them all run. So let's add in another. Actually, in the second one we'll do, and I'll show you the way to do this in just one line of code, which is pretty typical for how this is actually usually done. So you say thread counter 2 equals new thread. And instead of actually creating explicitly a VoteCounter object and having a reference variable for it, I can just do it right in here. So now I say new VoteCounter, and I'll pass in another name. This one will be Bruce. And there we go. So that's creating the object that is of the Runnable class and passing it directly into the thread, so we don't even have a name to reference this object with. But that's okay, because with threaded classes like this, you usually, all you are doing is starting the thread. So all we really need is the pointer to the thread object. So now I can type counter 2 dot start, and we can play this and see what happens. So now you'll see, if you look down here, that it's switching off between Celine's votes counting up and Bruce's votes counting up, because Java's thread scheduler, it just pops back and forth between the two threads that have been started. Now this is going really fast, so it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. So we're going to stop this, and we're going to add a little bit more modification. So if we go back over to our vote counter, we can actually put in a little thread.sleep inside this while loop, just to slow it down. So as the last statement in this while loop, I'll do a thread.sleep, and I'll say sleep for 50 milliseconds. As soon as I do this, I get a little error message, and this is because thread.sleep can throw an exception, and so we need to handle that exception somehow. So if I click on it, it says surround statement with Trycatch or surround block with Trycatch. So I don't want to just surround the thread.sleep statement. I want to surround the block inside the while loop. And so I just click on that, and it does it for me. So I don't actually have to remember all the syntax for this. It will just do this for me, and the error is gone, and now you can see that the stuff that's in my while loop is inside a Trycatch loop. So now I can run this, and we'll see what happens. So now you see that it is counting up much more slowly, and at some point I can stop it. And you'll see that when I stopped it, Celine had 158 votes and Bruce had 159 votes. So in this instance, because of how the scheduling happened, Bruce actually won. He got 109 votes. But let's run it again and see what happens. Okay, we'll stop it again. So yes. Okay, this time Celine had 116, Bruce had 117. So again, it worked out that way. You assume that at some point we stop this, and because of the way the threading works, it will have gone the other way. Celine has 141, Bruce has 141, so this time it was a tie based on when we stopped it. But what you want to pay attention to is that it is not going back and forth constantly, always just one or the other, although it sort of looks that way. But there will be times when the Celine voting will run twice, and then the Bruce voting will run once, and so on. So the scheduler is not something that you can perfectly depend on. So that's pretty much all I needed to show you for the very simplest version of threading. We will do one more thing, which is create a third thread, just so you can see that you can do as many of these as you want. So counter 3 equals new thread, new vote counter, and we'll say Elizabeth, go, and then counter 3 dot start. So now we're going to have 3 different threads running, and we can stop this at any point in time. And at the point we stopped it, oh, all three of us had 127 votes. So this is sort of your basic idea of threaded programming. What you need to do is create a class that implements Runnable. That's a critical step. Put what you need to have happening when the thread runs inside of a run method, and then you create a thread, and in that thread you pass it a new object of the class that implements Runnable, and finally you have to start each thread. And that's pretty much it for threaded programming. Hope that was helpful. Bye now.